We cover the latest topics and trends making waves across the sport and chat with our industry's most prominent leaders, so your golf business stays one step ahead. Welcome to Golf Business Live, powered by Club Caddy. Here's NGCOA CEO Jay Caron and owner of Augusta Ranch Golf Club and secretary of the PGA of America, Don Ray.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the September 2021 episode of Golf Business Live, powered by Club Caddy. Thank you, Jason and the guys at Club Caddy, for sponsoring our little show here. Don Ray, welcome. How are you?
Doing great.
Awesome.
It's a little muggy out here in Arizona, but I'm doing great.
Muggy? Yeah, no, I'm in Charleston. You don't know Muggy.
I think I knew Muggy yesterday. No doubt.
What happened?
Oh, I got to play a little golf, the Straight Down Shaker, little golf event at Greyhawk, and actually cashed a check. Look out. Me and my partner, Tyler Gallagher, cashed a check, which is nice to do. But Aaron Oberholzer and his partner won the event. But, but it was fun. But it wasn't a dry heat yesterday. It was hot.
Good. Glad to hear you getting out playing golf. It's like it's strange in our industry how many people that work in the industry wear like a badge of honor how little they play. Oh gosh, it's been 6 months as well. Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, it's been 12 months for me. Whatever. It's like no. That is not the narrative. It needs to be we are out there playing, right? That's certainly what I'm doing. But well, anyway, listen, we've got a great show today. I don't know if this was a mistake move or a genius stroke or not, but we're going to bring on some of our NGCOA rockstar owner operators here in a little bit. Very excited to try and facilitate a conversation from four of our great owners that we'll introduce in a little bit here. So and those of you at home, don't forget that during the show, use the channel of your choice, use the comment section to ask questions of Don or me or our panelists, and we'll do our best to squeeze some of those in. So just a couple of things before we bring our guests on. So this was a big day today, some Ryder Cup picks, and we got a big tournament in a couple of weeks, right, Donnie?
We do. I don't even know what picks happened. I've got some nematodes and I got a little pythium in my greens, so I've been running around all morning trying to get the soil analysis back to find out which very expensive chemical I'm going to have to spray on my greens. So I don't even know who Steve picked. I'm hoping I know it's going to be a good team. I'm excited. I mean, going as an officer, you kidding me? Although we're not going to get the inner circle stuff because the team's going to be in a team zone. They're calling it, not a bubble, but a team zone. So unfortunately, I don't get some of that locker room access that I was going to get, but that's all right. I'm still going to be chanting USA, USA, and I can't wait.
And nobody wants to see you hanging around in that locker room anyway, Don. You got to be out there among the people, hanging out with your PGA.
I wanted to be in there, though. The locker room, the Ryder Cup, you kidding me? I was fired up, but that's okay.
Hey, a couple of things that I want to touch on this week. One is Pellucid came out today with kind of their utilization analysis, and they basically said the party might be over after 13 straight months of a utilization streak of basically month over prior years, performance. August looked to be down slightly over 2019. I think we're kind of benchmarking against 19 versus 20, and that's. I mean, you know what? So, do you think that that is a harbinger for no, we're going back downhill, or do you think we're living at a new plateau?
No, we're not going back downhill. I mean, there's going to be a new normal as club sports and all these other things happen. I've experienced it here at Augusta Ranch, but COVID's made me a better operator also, so no, but I do think that's why I'm excited about all our guests today. Obviously, I know and love all of them and just what are these next steps? Because I've heard many of them on individual podcasts and things talk about what they're going to do to try to sustain this as long as possible and then leverage against it for continued growth, because we've definitely brought more people out for one visit. So can we get them out for 2, 3, or 4 visits? So no, I think that number we knew eventually was going to happen, but it's not a bad thing. It's just a new normal, but the new normal is way better than it was in 99.
Yeah, I think the guys at Pellucid said that that August may have still been up a net 15% over 2019. So, but as far as the gains are moving down is what they're saying. But I'm like, you know what? We're grateful for this bump in demand, and it still, I think, is riding high for a good while. I want to touch on real quickly an article in Golf Business Weekly that Ronnie Miles wrote. I thought it was very interesting, and I want owner and operators to be aware of these issues. I've seen some small operators in different industries really get burned by these tipping policies and laws around the country, where I believe in Massachusetts, a golf course was being sued because what they were doing on their receipts or on their bills, they were adding tips and service charges. And the service charges, I believe, were staying with the golf course, and the tips were going to the employees who are eligible for tips. And essentially, I think the employees were suing that the service charge should have also gone to the employees. And I believe the courts found in favor of those employees. But a business can levy an administrative house fee, but it can't be labeled as a service charge if it's to stay with the house, if you will. Do you see these kinds of issues in Arizona? Because owners can really get burned with some serious financial liability if they're not adhering to their tip policies in their various states.
Yeah, right. I don't know anybody here. I mean, I know there's a lot of golf courses and non-golf courses putting different fees on the bottom of their receipt just to be transparent in a sense. Some are calling it a water conservation fee. Some are actually calling it like a health insurance fee. What I would tell you, though, is this is the new staffer. They are smart and they Google stuff, and they're going to try to stick it to us, Jay. Oh. These new employees, they want to know they know how many sick days they're supposed to get. They know exactly when they get their vacations. They take every day of vacation. The days are gone of somebody getting 3 weeks of vacation and only took 2 because they love you and they love the business. They will take that last week before their anniversary date because they deserve it. And they do. I get it. I'm not a hater, but I'm just telling you, this new wave of employees, they're all about making sure they get what's theirs coming, and they'll do the research to prove you wrong and take you to court and get you.
Ooh, wow.
Ooh, that's true.
It's true. That's a strong word. It's true. Yeah, I guess you were hoping. I guess maybe some employers are hoping for a little breakage in the PTO and vacation time and all of that kind of stuff. And there's been a historical use of that. But you're right. The times are changing. And I won't go into it too deep today. But I've got a theory about the day and time that people stopped getting paychecks, like literal paychecks, where you were handed a check with its pay stub to look at the moment in time, that weekly check or biweekly check. And you kind of did the mental calculation. You said, wow, I gave them my time and talent and I got compensated for it. And here's the proof of that. Once all of that went into auto deposit, into bank accounts, that calculation was lost. And I think, that there's not a moment in time where I think employees will feel that quid pro quo. And so a lot of the talk in the employee culture is about what more employees are getting, benefits, time, flexibility, and all of these things. And we sometimes forget that there is a quid pro quo here, and that they are getting compensated in many different ways. And so I just think the disappearance of that is this kind of a shame, that we don't do that mental calculation of that quid pro quo anymore. But I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, I think it's interesting. Dave Ramsey, I took a class with Dave Ramsey. He said, if you start paying cash with stuff, you really see how much you're spending. But if you hit the credit card, it really doesn't mean anything. I think the same thing. You're right. You hand a paycheck to a staff person. I mean, if I personally sign that, I know what I'm signing. There's a lot of golf course owners. I'm not even sure they're signing their own checks anymore. They have some automated service doing it. I like signing each and every check because then I start looking at where that check's going. But to your point, on a staffer, when I would hand them that check and say, and hand them out personally because nobody was direct deposit, there was something to that. I could say, hey, thank you very much. And they had to make the deposit, and now it just jumps into their account. So we might have taken the relationship, out of the boss staffer relationship in a sense, and that's, you're right. That I didn't think about that until you just mentioned it, but we don't do that anymore, do we?
No, we don't. I don't think so. But anyway, all right. So just a reminder for folks to use your comment section. In fact, we have one already from Charlie, Bernie, They're on YouTube saying greetings to Jay and Don from Charlie, who is the host of our Golf Business Podcast. And speaking of the Golf Business Podcast, so we've got 4, I would say, podcast stars who have for probably 2.5 years or more, been regulars on our podcast in the owner-to-owner segment, where we just essentially put the owners in the virtual room together in the studio and talk about what's happening at the golf course. And it's entertaining and insightful every single time. And so we've got 4 of our rock stars with us, and I'll introduce them, and maybe we can bring them on one at a time. Taylor, how does that sound? So we'll start with Rock Lucas from Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia, South Carolina, past president of NGCOA, Don Rossi Award recipient for longtime service to NGCOA. Rock, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Appreciate it. And I was in the middle of something, and all of a sudden I heard my name called up to the plate.
You better pay attention. Yeah, it's like the teacher calling your name in the classroom, right? You better look up. Welcome to the show. We also have Dell Ratcliffe from Ratcliffe Golf Services out of the Charlotte market, an operator of at least 5 golf courses, from what I understand, and as well a recipient of our Don Rossi Award. Dell, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jay, and it's good seeing you and Don and even Rock on here too. So
I was so afraid you were going to patch in from a nude beach. I really was. I had Taylor monitoring carefully.
I managed to find this closet. This works pretty good here, so.
And Jay, you missed his courses by times 5.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
He's in the 20s.
He's growing.
I'm looking at Ratcliffe Golf Services, and I only see 5 on there. So what are you, a silent partner in 20 more? You're never a silent partner. What am I talking about?
I'm actually a partner in Pinnacle Golf too, with David Taylor. We have a few more courses that we are involved in now. So, it's golf has been a great business over the last few years, and I'm kind of going back to your observation, from Pellucid. I think that one of the things that's very positive for our industry, Jay, is those guys are looking at numbers of rounds, but one of the things you have to factor in also are the actual revenues that we're receiving. Most everyone has been pushing pricing. So even if we're starting to see some weaknesses in rounds, most revenues are still up because we're realizing more revenue per round. So I think as an industry, even if we see rounds slip a little bit, I don't think that's a negative indicator at all at this point.
You're absolutely right. And man, Rock, I didn't even ask him a question. He already gave me an answer.
I know. You better mute him because you're not even going to finish introducing the
panel. All right. Let's bring on our next guest, Allison George from Toad Valley Golf Course in Pleasant Hill, Iowa. Allison, former board member of NGCOA, and I will predict a future Don Rossi recipient for all that he has done for this organization. Allison, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Excellent. All right, and I'm going to need you to help keep these guys in line.
I know. It is a job.
oh gosh. All right, and so our final guest. They used to say a face made for radio. Well, I get this guy's got a face made for podcasting. We have Whitey O'Malley from Saddleback Golf Course in Firestone, Colorado. Whitey, how the heck are you?
Real good from Colorado. Good to be here, guys.
And Whitey is a new member of the board of directors of NGCOA, by the way. So, we're adding a governor to some governance here. So we'll see what happens with Whitey's involvement, but we welcome you to the board.
You'll love to regret it.
Okay, guys, welcome. They have, by the way, the folks at home, nobody knows at all what questions we have in store. I've got one question certainly for each of you, particular, to your business. But let me start off by asking you kind of what Don and I were talking about a little bit is like this utilization, number, like the performance of the industry has been phenomenal for 13 straight months. And the question that is, everybody's asking and people want us to do research on and so forth is, okay, are we in a new normal here? What is different? Are we just the beneficiaries of some wonderful demand we never were expecting, or something really different happening here for the future of the game? You guys have been at this, you've seen cycles. You guys have all seen cycles come and go. So what do you think about this particular cycle and what the future holds? And I'll start with Allison.
Excellent. How long is this live supposed to go?
About 45 minutes.
We might be here for an hour. Anyway, yeah. So first of all, I'm like super. Whatever the utilization is, like I need to invent time. But I'm in a more unusual circumstance, and my neighboring golf course inadvertently killed 10 of their greens last year, and so they've actually been closed all this year. So it has been to say we are busy is like the biggest understatement. And obviously I'm anticipating some level of drop off. That being said, we're prepared for it and are not making the same mistakes that we did in the 90s, where, which you can do right now, you pretty much just have to unlock your door and then the tee sheet is, goes all day long. And we're continuing to market, harvest the data, and court our golfers so that, when it does drop off a little, it's very easy to invite them to come back where, we weren't doing that back in the 90s. We just, there was never any end to it. I was just a kid in the 90s. And so I always wondered, like, how did my parents, I've always struggled because, I foolishly came in taking over in 2004 and had to go through, 2008 and all of that. So I was always like, how did my parents even do this? This is hard, and now I get it. It's like, oh, that's how we could go on family vacations when I was a kid, because it's a lot easier when all you have to do is unlock the doors. So anyway, yeah, we're continuing to see and embracing the young. It's unbelievable how young our golfers are. They're all under the age of 35. And so, we're really embracing them and, trying to provide as many things because they definitely have a different attitude about, where they spend their money. We have like huge loyalty programs and do lots of, cool deals. And, we have a great craft beer selection. So we're trying to, making sure that we're continuing to cater to that age group so they keep coming back.
It's funny you mentioned unlocking your doors. I thought Pleasant Hill was a place where no one locks their doors.
Ironically, every morning my sister-in-law is who opens the clubhouse, and she always texts me which doors the night before were forgot to be locked.
Rock, let me ask you, Rock. Are you seeing similar kinds of trends where it's starting to trend younger? Which is, who's not going to love to see that, when we've gone through, more than a decade of just narrative after narrative of, it's basically golf's going to die when the boomers die, and what have you. Are you seeing the same kinds of demographic shifts in West Columbia, South Carolina?
Define the younger. Is that like under 57, or is that are you talking about college age, 35? What are you talking about?
I'd say 35 and under. Like 35.
Right, those guys, what I'm seeing of those, the college students are still coming out in groves. That young professional that's starting a family or hasn't quite started a family yet, they're playing a lot of golf, but they're not really married to one place, and they're not really. Some of them. Most of the ones I see aren't joining private clubs, so they're kind of moving around from course to course. They've got a home course but they play a lot of other golf courses, so they're playing a lot of golf.
So more transient. Is everybody, Whitey? Are you seeing that, or do you feel like your core customers are becoming more transient than they used to be? They're not being loyal to one course.
I don't know. I mean, from this whole pandemic, I think the inventory, is so small that. We're seeing just a huge uptick in 2020, obviously, but this year we're only down 20% from 19% from last year's numbers. So we're really happy with that. But I'm not seeing a lot of transient. There is a little bit more picking and choosing. I think there's a little bit more inventory out there, but we're seeing a lot more millennials. And Gen Zs, and what we're seeing is that. They're coming out with their parents, and they're finding out that this is not really an old man's game. You don't have to wear plaid, and you can come out here and enjoy 4 or 5 hours with your parents, and it's not hell,
You don't have to wear plaid, but Dell's probably thinking, but you could. You could. What about you, Dell? You're seeing across multiple properties, and the benefit of looking at multiple properties, hopefully seeing some trend lines more than headlines that we see sometimes that impact golf. So what trend lines are you seeing that that make you bullish on golf for the next 10 years?
Well, I can tell you one thing, Jay. I'm one of the first ones I'll admit the whole thing has caught me off guard. I threw away my crystal ball probably by May of 2020. The pandemic has really affected golf in ways that I don't think any of us really could realize or even dream of how it all combined to really create what we've had happen in golf. And at the same time, too, I was really thinking that we were going to see this kind of go back to a period where we would quickly return, maybe not to where it was, but certainly less than what we saw in 2020. I didn't think we'd ever see another year like 2020. But at our courses across the board, we're outperforming 2020 and 2021. And, how long that happens, I don't really know. But it really boils down to, I think, of people's choices of what they do. Golf is made up of a real broad spectrum. We tend to start trying to classify it as a certain particular group, and there may be groups that are predominant, but I'm telling you, it spans all ages. It spans a wide range of incomes, and backgrounds and every type of demographic that you can think of out there. And what it really boils down to is, what are people doing with their leisure time and, that discretionary spend? What are they doing to occupy the time when they're not at work or not doing, things that are required at home? And fortunately for us, golf has really been a popular choice. And I think a lot of people it's an addictive sport too. I mean, let's face it, most of us that work in golf, we're not doing it for the money. We do it because we love the game of golf. We're really drawn to this.
No. Whitey's doing it for the money. Trust me.
Oh, is it? Well,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I think the truth is, as long as we continue to be competitive for that leisure time of people and that discretionary dollar spend, we're going to do well. The other thing that bodes well for us, and Don and I work together on a number of committees on this with junior golf. We've been very successful as an industry at involving our youth at young ages, and we know that historically that's really kind of seeding for the future. We don't get a direct return on those junior golfers right now. And in fact, most of them leave the game once they start hitting their teenage years. A large percentage of them get away from golf. But ironically, after they go through college and they get settled back down, a lot of them come back into the game. So yeah. I think we've got a lot of a pipeline out there that we don't really give ourselves credit for having. And I think that the supply and demand balance has been really good. Even though we've seen this happen, golf is not something where we can create a lot of supply overnight. You're not going to see a lot of golf courses built because of this. I think that this has really brought our supply and demand equation back in balance much better than what it was. We've seen increased participation rates among the populace in general. And, it's on us now that we always say this, but it is on us to provide the experience that people want to continue doing it versus what other choices they might have.
It's funny that it's kind of you used the word ironic earlier. I find it ironic that it was the home building industry that helped, and their exuberance for golf as an amenity that helped drive the oversupply. And the ironic thing is that it's the home building industry that comes back and helps with the course closures because of the increase in demand and the price that they're willing to pay for the land. So it's just how this is getting bookended by the influence of the home building industry. Certainly, I find pretty fascinating. Don, we were chatting before the show. You had some questions that you wanted to ask the group about labor and what's happening with the workforce.
Yeah, especially with this group, I know we're all just trying to make it happen. But I will say, so far, Allison has the quote of the day. She's talking about cool deals instead of hot deals. So I like that for sure. But, guys, just what – I'll just say a little bit at Augusta Ranch right now. We've got a good food and beverage staff, but really I should be laying people off because it's the summer. But I know in 60 days I'm going to need them. So I'm literally just paying people to just stand around right now because I know if I lay them off, they're never coming back. So I have enough people. Agronomy, I'm short 3 people. I'm just jacked up out there trying to get the golf course ready every day. But what are you guys doing right now dealing with labor shortage? And how are you? You got some secret sauce out there I need to try?
Who wants to jump in?
Well, I'll go Whitey. I'll call Whitey out first because I like how he's got some innovative stuff out there.
Well, we got we're good on the maintenance side. We got our senior guys that are mowing, and we were hurting for guys running the weedos, the weed whips, and what have you. But we got through the summer for that, and we're on our downhill slide. Everybody's tired out there, but we really were hurting for the restaurant side. And I know. Don, you were struggling with your restaurant here years ago, and we're kind of in the same boat. We built this nice new fancy clubhouse, and we're having a hard time finding out who we really are with the restaurant side of it. But we're trying different things. We went to a service charge, like Jay was saying, and the whole service charge gets divided out over the whole staff. So the dishwasher and the sous chef back there, or the cook, is making, instead of making $12, $14 an hour, they're enjoying the upside of it. And we went to a totally no tipping facility. So that's all gets spread out, and it goes on. You get paid the quarter after the quarter that you were here. So you got to be here for some longevity to enjoy in that. But these guys are getting big checks every quarter for the bonuses if they stay. Now the ones that are transient, they're not going to enjoy in it, and they stay a little bit longer. It's really a unique thing that it really does help. So there's a little bit of a bonus program there.
Rock, how about you? I remember you and I talking about you process a new employee, and then by the time you write, their first check, they've already ghosted you. I mean, you still battling that?
Oh yeah, it's a couple notes real quick. I've got a lot of my members are business owners and restaurant owners, and one of them owns they own a chain of chicken wing places. The other one has diners where they open for breakfast and lunch, and we all talk about it. And between you and I, literally, when you and I were doing a podcast a good while back about hot dogs might become market price. Well, so the things that we've talked about months ago are happening, and so we're from food costs to stuff, but employees, as we all have it. I was on the phone earlier today with a top in Jay's neck of the woods, a top 50 golf course private club, and I said, well, I'm sure this doesn't bother y'all. He said, well, it does. He does it with our key employees, that long time, but the rest of it, they have just at the top golf courses in the world, they have the same problems. But from trying to keep them to somebody offers them 50 cents more down the street, there's no loyalty. You said earlier they do their homework, and they get together and they're Googling this and Googling that, and they take checks, pictures of their paychecks, and it's automatically deposited, and they just leave their checks laying around. So everybody knows, somebody sees that somebody's making a nickel more. And so, well, daggone, they're making more and I was here longer. So, well, yeah, but you don't close, you don't work the grill, you don't do this, you don't do that. But I've been here longer. Well, I'll tell you what. And so I was telling one of the restaurant owners, he said, and he summed it up. He said that every employee is negotiating their own individual contract. Mm-hmm. So there is no any longer. There's not, we're starting at 9 or we're starting at 12. And if you do this, it's, can you work these days, these hours, these times, and this is what that'll pay you. And what will you work for? And so every single person's got their own individual, basically, contract.
Yeah, there's a good question I want to surface, and I'm thinking of Allison when I see this question, because of some of the things you've done with your facilities as a kind of an antidote to the labor issue. Roger Kincaid, good friend in the industry here, is what are your thoughts on reducing service touch points with innovative tech? For example, mobile ordering as a service enhancement. What could be done instead of I got to hire more people? Are there openings for eliminating some of that labor need, even if it's a short-term solution, but in a way that doesn't necessarily compromise the customer experience? So, Allison, I know you've done some innovative things at your facility, and did it actually help on the labor expense side?
So there's a multiple questions in there. Probably the smartest thing I did was I introduced simulators to my golf facility. So now I am open year round. So it has gone so well that it's allowed me to have more full-time employees where I am offering, a salary and, bonuses and things like that, so that, they're here year round. So that's 10 times easier, because it just is, it's really weird now that you've made me really big. Looking at myself.
Can we keep the
anyway, it's been a lot better, because I've had some I don't want to say extra cash, but I've had cash that I've never had before, because we're now open 12 years. So it's been really nice to be able to have those extra positions. Now, that being said, I'm not going to pretend like I have everything figured out. I've had 2 of my full-time people email me and then quit that day. So it is the biggest thing that I do is I work a lot, unfortunately. And we have a family business, thankfully. And so family obligation plays a big role. And we do have a lot of, still very loyal staff members who come and help us. Now, I did, as far as kind of lowering things, we've actually kind of lowered our standards with a handful of things, eliminating some labor costs that they were important to me, but not maybe important to the golfer. I kind of eliminated different things that I was doing that were time consuming, and I would wait to kind of hear, is anybody complaining about this? And then when they wouldn't, I would just kind of stop doing that. I found that, my expectations were sometimes a little high. And then the other thing I'm planning on doing, I don't know if you guys have paid attention to this or not, but I can't remember which, I think it's Range Servant has a new robot range picker that's supposed to be coming out next year. I'm going to the PGA show and I'm going to check that thing out, because I'm like, we go through so many range balls. We fill our machine a couple of times a day. It's absolutely insane. And, that's a lot of labor costs for someone just driving around, and so, we're constantly trying to look at, some of those things. And unfortunately, golf is a labor intensive business. There's a lot of touch points that, we tried to go without marshals, for instance. Well, guess what? Someone tried to steal our golf cart and drove it into the nearby farm field. So it's like, okay, well, we spent a lot of money repairing fences and they stole a bunch of stuff, and it's like, okay, well, that wasn't really a very good cost savings to go without rangers. And so now, we have to do that again because unfortunately, people are sometimes really, they just are not very nice to your property.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Oh, really insightful. I mean, the kind of the iRobot for the driving range. I dig that.
Yeah.
Justin Smith has been demoing it for this summer, so I just talked to him about that about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Yeah. So he likes it, but he wants to wait until it goes random now all over the range. He was looking at wait until it goes in a defined pattern, so it does more work and more.
Is there a target symbol on top that the golfers, are going to try to chip and hit? I mean, I would imagine.
It kind of looks like the Batmobile.
Wow.
And I attended the symposium a few years ago, and I remember they were talking about, trying to automate, golf or the greens mowers, just do some of those things that, we can help with labor costs. But, the biggest issue is the battery charging. But for us, we also save a little bit on costs because we put headlights on all of our mowers, and our mowing crew, we're actually done mowing every day at 11 because they all come in super early. And I know it sounds kind of silly, but when we're so busy, because our tee time start as soon as the sun is up, it's really an outside guy that's just sitting there waiting for a golfer to pass guy. Sometimes those hours add up. So we put headlights on absolutely everything, and sometimes they start at 3 and 4 in the morning to get things done.
Yeah, Rock is out there at 3 a.m. with his iPhone out there at Charwood, just mowing the fairways. I'm sure, right? Save a little money.
I'm not that high tech. I don't have an iPhone.
Oh, that's right.
I got a flip phone.
I heard that during a rehearsal yesterday that maybe Whitey and Rock, you guys were talking about tournaments and pricing. And I recall early in the COVID spike, in the summertime, with the elimination of tournaments, because everybody was fearful of gathering. There was this elimination, and then the tee sheet fills up, and all of these that people would think, wait a second, I kind of like this. Am I giving up income by hosting tournaments? And oh my gosh, is this a new day for that? Now that we're I guess 18 months into this COVID, scramble, if you will, what are you guys learning as far as the old-fashioned event in tournaments, and what do you feel is going to still be very valuable to the course, and what do you kind of, to Allison's thing, like what are you kind of hoping maybe goes away if you don't invite it or don't mention it or don't do it anymore? Like, what do you guys see? And maybe Del, I'll start with you since you're across multiple properties.
Yeah, well, we've got some properties that are very heavily geared towards events. And, one of the things that was across the board that we saw were during COVID, we realized a much higher revenue stream because we weren't doing those events. And, that I think that it really boils down to the efficiency of your golf course. One of the problems with events are they aren't as efficient as just doing straight tee times. You can't get a better utilization off your golf course than just running, groups of 4 out there every however many minutes your tee time intervals are. That's the most efficient way. Shotgun starts typically are not as efficient. They take up more time. you're typically doing, you may be doing events that are a little more costly in terms of COGS with your food and beverage operation when you're doing events like that versus a regular, snack bar type food and beverage operation you might be doing for your daily golfer. But on the flip side of that, you don't have the security. It's great as long as we're getting all those tee times filled, but we really don't know, again, back to the point of how long is that going to last, So for us, we've been really kind of balancing that, to which one is really the better option for you. And right now, even still, if you're looking at strictly from a management of revenue position, daily fee play is still yielding us much better than going with the event. And the other thing is most people.
But let me ask you this though, Dell. Let me ask you this: are you closed off to taking those events now? Are you basically saying we're not going to be doing events certain days of the week and times when in the past you would have if you just kind of closed it off?
Yeah, well, one of the things that it did do, and it really kind of solidified our belief that, if we are going to do an event in certain peak periods when we know, say, for example, weekends or days when we know we would be full, we're charging a premium for those times for an event. And most of them expect a per player discount. They say, well, hey, we're going to bring you, 120 golfers. We expect a cheaper rate than if we were paying regular daily fee. Well, if you were going to sell those at that higher rate and you're not going to yield as many rounds. So for example, even a full field, 144 player field, I could still run more golfers through the golf course on tee times than we can in a shotgun start. So from our perspective, a lot of times we're trying to push those towards the off-peak times. We're kind of revising some of our pricing where we're charging more for the peak times, but we're giving them a break in those less desirable times. It is better always to have a bird in hand. If you can have a guaranteed income and you've got a commitment during a particular time that you're not going to be busy, that's always a great thing. But
to hear you talk, Dale, to hear you talk about this, it's like the script has been flipped. I mean, 2 years ago, this would not have been our conversation, about this high demand, how it changes the DNA of how you approach your business and your pricing and all of these things. I know Whitey and you and Rock were having that chat. What did you conclude in your private chat about that yesterday?
Well, Rock brought it up to me. He was giving me some of the solutions, and what he was talking to me about was exactly what we were doing. I mean, we're no longer going to be doing tournaments on weekends. We just think the dollar amount that Dell is talking about is so out there that it's almost insulting for them to hear it. So we just say no on Saturday and Sunday. We're going to try to push a really good deal for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So, Rock, you can jump in there, but that's what
we got spoiled by not having them, and I really didn't like having them in the first place. But the problem is, it's one thing to have that 130 to 144 max field, but it's that 100 to 120 or 80 to 120 that just absolutely just screws up your entire day, your whole golf course. They still want a discount. You're not going to make the money on a food and beverage operation doing that than you'd almost better off just charging a corkage or going up a couple of dollars and saying, hey, bring your own food, not the alcohol, unless you're going to, and then we'll allow them to do that as long as they get their own private insurance policy, and then we get paid so much per person. We're going to net more money without doing all the overhead and the less bodies. So we took Steve Graybill's idea, and I'm going to say that's who we got it from. So he probably stole it from somebody else. But we just did here's our revenue that we make this day, and here's what it's going to cost you. So we will do a 72. We can shotgun them off the back nine, but they got to go in the morning, not in the afternoon. We can tee time our front, shotgun them on the back. They follow that train car right onto the front, and then our tee sheet is open off of number one the rest of the day. But if you've got 73 players or more, you got to pay for the entire golf course at our fixed price, whatever that may be. It may be $4,000 at one golf course. It might be $8,000 at another golf course, but whatever that number is. And then you just say, hey, here it is. So if you've got 72, then your cost might be $55 or $70 a person. But if you've got 144, then your cost might be $30 a person, right. But that's up to them. And we've actually had several of them that never even flinched. They said, okay. And so we got them, and we guaranteed the full price of the day that, so we went to that model, and I was scared to death that first time we said something that, somebody, have a few choice words. But so I said, hey, manage it, either keep it under 70 or get as many as you can.
It's amazing to hear you say, we were scared to death of doing this, and we do it, and wow. Same thing with dynamic pricing and yield management. changing the price. The 4 people in the same tee time might have all paid different rates based on all of that. We're so scared to do it, but when you do, it's like, oh my gosh, the water's warmer on this side, or leaving an OTTA that you thought you were going to always have to be on in order to succeed, and then, oh my gosh, look, we're doing so much better in these cases, or what have you. So interesting to hear, so many small business owners. What I've often said is most small business owners, they risk everything to get into the business.
But
and
we're
then
still in the minority.
business,
That group set, that mindset that you're talking about, and the people on the screen, the people who are listening are probably doing all those things, or else they wouldn't even be listening to us in the first place.
That's true.
But this group is still, we are very, very much in the minority. The rest of golf is still, remember I told you years and years ago, the most conservative other than the church, we're the most conservative business in the country. And everybody's still scared to. So there's a couple out there that's doing it, but the rest of them are. That's
why you're on the show, and and the others aren't. But everybody risks getting into the business. But most operators who aren't on this, or this show, stop risking when you're in the business. They stop risking. But so it's just very interesting. Don, you're Mr. You're the preacher on revenue management and dynamic pricing and all of these things. What is your take on kind of the DNA shifts because of the higher demand market?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of golf courses getting into dynamic pricing. I think that's awesome because you're taking advantage of it. Those courses were saying, man, it's the greatest time of my life. I'm making so much money. So you're dynamically pricing, right? No, man, but I'm killing it. Leaving money on the table. But I will say there's 3 areas that I'm really worried about. And I had to look at my own facility. Is you can revenue manage all day long. But if your annual passes and you're still doing annual passes, that is hurting you because you're not dynamically pricing those times. But someone's buying a pass. Those might be old tools. I don't know if we go there anymore. And all our tournament professionals, they've lived through the last 8 years when there was no demand. So all we did was tell them we want occupancy because we want to run the beverage card and we're hoping they all buy a hot dog. And that's all they know. And now all of a sudden they're hurting our RevPAR because they're putting in tournaments at prices that are too low. So Rock's right. Everybody on this call gets it. But that 28-year-old tournament coordinator that you have, if they're not actively looking at the tee sheet and has some software to really quote a rate that's beneficial to the facility instead of displacing revenue, you're getting hurt. So your loyalty cards, they can't be 40% or 40% off just a set rate. It's got to be a percentage off, and hopefully not 40. It should be 20, maybe 10 of a dynamically priced rate. Watch those annual passes and watch that 28-year-old tournament coordinator because he's hammering you right now and costing you money.
Dale went to all his new properties and started membership sales.
Yeah, it's really interesting because that's one of the first things that we did is we've eliminated memberships. They were just simply annual passes. I called them. They're really prepaid golf. Is what they are. They're discounted prepaid golf, and the math is where it really gets you. You've got there's a certain number of golfers out there that will literally do the math, and they'll say, okay, it costs me X number of dollars for this membership. I know I'm going to play X number of times a month, and they net it down to where it's really not in favor of the golf course, and so. We've actually taken a lot of heat for that. And, I'm not saying that we won't have memberships again, but we basically did a reset. We said, okay, for right now, we're doing away with all that. We'll come back with some form of loyalty, or if it is a membership, it's going to be something that's much more in favor of the golf course that we can manage better. And to Don's point, even a membership, if you've got an annual pass, you can't dynamically price that. When things change, it's like saying on your menu, okay, we're going to charge X number of dollars for hamburgers all year long, no matter how much it costs you to go and buy a hamburger. Well, I noticed the other day, I went into a little sports bar right here. The cheapest hamburger on the menu was $12. $12 for a hamburger with fries at a sports bar, So, and we've literally, to Rock's point about, having to charge market price for a hot dog, we're literally having to reprice every week. We're looking at what our food costs are because, if you don't do that, if you statically price your food right now, you're going to be losing money. I can guarantee you that. It's just
we got
Whitey.
I'm just going to say, I got 2 examples of people that had their season passes out there. One of them had 30% of their revenue came from season passes, and they were taking over 80% of the tee times. My brother in Wisconsin just raised his 50%, and it was the best thing that he said he's ever done. And dynamic pricing is the same doggone thing. Once you do it and you get over it, the best thing we've ever done was dynamic pricing. But everybody's scared about, what do you tell somebody when they call and they don't know what the price is? Well, when they find out that they're paying 79 at my counter, but the guy right behind them is paying 68, and he says, why the hell is he paying 68? I say, well, he made his tea time out 2 weeks. You can do that too. Well, then that's what they do. Now I'm filling up.
No,
it's easy.
Let me ask you a question about these tournaments that do come and have come. How many of you, raise your hand if you are gathering customer data on all of those people that come and play in those tournaments? Because sometimes it's the tournament director or the charity organizer that's gathering all the names, and they just show up, right? And they play the course, and you get your fee for all of that. I'm afraid that it's still not standard practice for the course to capture the data of everybody that's playing. And is there a reason for that not happening? So how many of you are doing that with your corporate charity outings? You're collecting customer data on those that are playing in the outings. Anybody?
Depends on the group. Some of them not.
Do you not want it? Is it bad data? Is that why you don't want it? Because they're just not true golfers, or they're not real potential customers, or is it too labor intensive to gather it, or do you not work it into your deals with the tournament organizers to get that data? What's the block?
Well, I think the number one thing for us is exactly what you just said, Jay. We don't work that into the deal with the tournament coordinator, to really get that information. Now, some tournaments where we actually manage the event, that's part of what we do. We capture that data automatically through the sign-up process, So when we push them to those, we do capture that information. They go into our marketing. They become part of our customer base, and so we do that. If it is say an independently managed group, generally we certainly don't require it, and there's a lot of things on both sides of that equation. Sometimes they don't want you marketing to their people. They don't want to give you that information, and we respect that. We do always have certain ways that we try to gather that information from. We've got a birthday club that we try to get people to sign up for, so we can collect that information. We always make that available. If they're playing on the golf course, they get they get exposure to that. They'll see, and we do collect some information on that. Generally speaking, when we give out information to them, and sometimes we're giving giveaways and things like that, it leads them kind of into our funnel. We don't require them to give that to us, but we actually have a lot of different nets that we're casting out there to try to lead those golfers into the funnel that we have.
Allison, what about you? You're kind of you've been a master on data marketing and digital marketing and so forth. Do you feel like you're crossing a line if you struck a deal with those tournament organizers to share customer? You also kind of want to know who's on your golf course. I don't think it's a bad thing to say, I need to know everybody who's on my golf course and their contact information. Oh, and by the way, we'll be marketing to them. Seriously, like what do you think about this?
I personally struggle with it because it feels a little bit about not that they haven't actually opted in to get information from the golf course. So we try to be respectful of that and follow very similar practice to what Dell is suggesting, where we give away a new driver or a new wedge or something every month, and so they can sign up to be a part of that giveaway. They can be a part of our birthday. We do other things. The tournaments that use our sign up process, we do obviously collect that data. But it is not just kind of standard practice. To me personally, it feels it doesn't feel honest. So that's why we don't do it. So, but I have done in the past, and to be perfectly honest, we're just so busy this year. It was just one of those things I just didn't do. We have done like signups where redeem this for a hat, redeem this for a koozie, different things like that. I have done that. I just did not do that this last year because a girl has got to get some beauty sleep.
Girl, I understand. All right, so I'm going to close out the show with just one question for each of you, and just if you don't mind, just kind of a brief. Let us know what's happening. Allison, I'll start with you with the kind of the closure of the pro shop, from what I understand, and in repurposing that space. So what are you doing? I mean, that's a big move. Talk about, this fear of, oh my gosh, if I close down my pro shop and replace it with the simulator business, you're obviously looking to yield more revenue per square foot out of your physical plant. But what are you doing for those that expect the old-fashioned retail experience? I expect to see shirts. I expect to see golf balls and whatever. What are you doing?
I send them to Golf Galaxy, where they were going anyway. So
wow. So you're not doing it at all?
Nope. We sell balls, gloves, and tees. And that's
just the basics.
Yep.
And I know you're happy with that.
I absolutely love it. I would recommend it to everyone. We made more in 3 months than I did in almost 6 years of my pro shop with having simulators. So I would not turn back. It is really funny how many people walk in and they're like, "What'd you do with your pro shop? It was the most beautiful pro shop in town." I'm like, well, it doesn't matter how pretty it is if it doesn't make money. It's just a giant waste of retail space. So it's and we get it. I mean, it happens, quite a bit. And then because we would get people where they would be like, oh, I really like this set of clubs, or I really like that shirt, but I'm not going to buy it till you put it on sale in the fall. And so, or they would come and say, oh, hey, I got this, can you do this fitting? And then they would go, to Amazon and buy it for $10 less, so, just in the same concept, where we're talking about there's lack of employee loyalty. There's also, a general overall lack of, even just kind of supporting that small business, where they wouldn't mind giving us an extra $10. So I don't regret it at all. I would recommend it to absolutely everyone.
Wow. That would talk about a bold move. It's great. What a great story. Whitey, I got a question for you. A few years ago, the legalization of marijuana in Colorado, you mentioned to me the idea of creating a website called Stroke and Toke, right? To find a place where you can play golf and smoke weed at the same time. So have you launched that?
That
was yours?
Yeah.
Oh, Whitey. Okay. So, but you can't do it in South Carolina. So,
it's my idea for Whitey.
Okay, for Whitey. So, Whitey, did you create the directory and how's it going?
No, it's illegal to smoke in a place that has a liquor license. So there you go.
Oh.
Yeah.
What if your liquor license boundary was only a pro shop and the acreage was exempt from the liquor license? I'm just trying to help you out. Well, honestly, I am curious though. What kind of usage do you see on the golf course in a state where it's legal? Because the steamroller is rolling across America as far as legalization, and so what is a golf course owner to expect?
Dude, it's not even legal in Iowa, and we get it all the time.
It's been exactly the same as it was before. Now it's just legal. Very little difference. I mean, really nothing.
Okay.
Other than a lot of tax revenue.
Well, maybe golf course owners will be able to utilize the extra acreage someday and grow your own and have craft cannabis. Offering this is the future. Way down the line. Del, I got to ask you, you're always in some new venture, whether it's moonshine or liquor or some food and beverage business. What is up your sleeve as far as new business venture that we need to know about?
Boy, I don't think that the business ventures that I have, Jay, really aren't so much new as I look at them almost as kind of retro type. The liquor business has been around for a real long time.
That's true.
The things that we're doing are really more throwbacks to prior years. I'll tell you the thing that we have, if I would say what the most trend that I'm most excited about at what we're doing right now is we're really jumping on the bandwagon of doing more upgrading of our social aspects at the clubhouse facilities, bringing in the outdoors, the transition zone between the door of the clubhouse and the golf course. There's a lot of space there that we can utilize for, other activities. We got one course we're looking at putting in a beer garden. We're going to put a beer garden in. It's going in right beside the clubhouse. Outdoor patios with fire pits where they're kind of an extension of the food and beverage operation at the golf course, where you can have, after your round of golf, instead of coming inside and sitting inside, you're going outside on the patio overlooking the golf course. You got a fire pit. You've got patio furniture there. You could have a few drinks with friends. Kind of creating that social hub in addition to just the golf experience. And so, and none of that's new. None of this is really new. It's just kind of something that I don't think that we in golf have really looked at as a part of our business, but it really should be.
Excellent. So in Rock, I'll finish off with a lot of folks in our membership but may not know, but your son is very involved in your business now, Daniel. And what do you find is the biggest difference between how Daniel looks at the business and how you've looked at the business?
I'm gonna start off probably with human resources and Dad. You can't talk to people that way, you know.
Oh no!
It's, you know, that's not the same as when you were, you know, my age. You know, you can't do that. There's a lot of you can't do this, you can't do that, and I said, all right, fine, you handle it. And then all of a sudden, it's come back to me and said, hey, will you take care of this? Well, it does still work. It does still work. So no, he's a lot. And Don mentioned, you know, Ramsey earlier. We're a lot the same mindset because he grew up in this business. He grew up around. He watched what we went through post 2007. So he watched all of that. And so you're in a boom. And so part of you says, hey, let's go spend, let's go do this. So yeah, we did a lot of capital improvements and deferred maintenance but we still do no long-term debt, period. And so even though business is there and all that, we said, nope, we're not going to get it in that boat. So we might, if we can't pay cash for it, then we don't do it. And just because, you know, I'm still gun shy. My father grew up, he was a child of the Great Depression. So that generation grew up remembering the Great Depression. Well, we're remembering 2007. And so we're, you know, that will never, ever, ever happen to us again.
It's amazing how the hard times and the recession made everybody smarter operators, right? So let's just hope that wisdom sticks with us. We can leverage it in the good times, right? I mean, that's really what, you know, maximize it in the good times. Don, any Mr. Secretary, any closing comments for the group? Closing comments or questions?
You know, I guess it would just, we got to walk the range again. You know what? I think when these golfers start getting other things that could take their time away, we've got to build relationships with them and talk to them and get them out and playing more golf. I mean, there's still some kicking the tires on our sport. And if I think we're missing anything is sometimes we put the people who build relationship the best behind the golf shop counter all day long. You could put a 16-year-old kid there or a 65-year-old man there to ring people up. But walking the range and talking to people and building a relationship, that's what's going to sustain us through the next downturn of pandemic. And we just got to get everybody out of the shop building relationships because it's, you know, we got to stop counting the beans a little bit. We got to start planting some seeds.
You know, and in this December, I'm going to start taking my level 1 5-day seminar class in the PGA of America as an associate. And I'm going to look for those relationship building classes, Don Ray. If I don't see them, I'm going to talk to you about it.
Well, I'm working on it. I mean, give me a chance. I've only been secretary a year now. I mean, I got a lot of things in store. Look out.
I know you do.
If I walk the line, I walk the range.
Right. Oh, good Johnny Cash. We'll figure that out. We'll play that at the conference. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Whitey, Allison, Del, Rock, you know, you guys have done so much for this organization. I'm forever grateful. You guys have incredible insight and wisdom, and thank you for your willingness to share all those with our audience, our entire industry, and our membership. We really appreciate you guys. And until next time, thanks for tuning in to Golf Business Live, and we'll see you in October. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Don. See you guys.